Hey guys, it's brickwitchery, and today I wanted to make a separate video with all of my gripes about LEGO Harry Potter, just because I seem to be constantly bringing it up and repeating myself over and over again. So this will be my kind of explanation rant video to get it out of the way and have it there for me to be able to refer back to it later. Anyway, let's get into it. First thing I wanted to talk about was LEGO reusing faces when they don't match the character. Something I've noticed lately with LEGO is that they've been using a lot of faces from previously established themes. For example, a lot from Jurassic World and Star Wars and DC and Marvel. It doesn't make sense for a lot of the characters because they just don't look like them. A theory I have is perhaps they've been sacrificing minifigure accuracy in favor of making better interiors for their sets, but I guess anything's possible. To be honest, it's mostly been the 2019 to 2020 wave that I've noticed this in, but I could be wrong. Lucius Malfoy from the new Diagon Alley set is one of the biggest culprits for me. So his face was originally found as Bruce Wayne's face in the 2011 Batcave and more recently used for Loki and Lex Luthor and numerous Star Wars and Jurassic World background characters. I think Lucius Malfoy deserves his own face. First off, because he's meant to be an exclusive minifigure to this D2C set, which is very expensive, but also he doesn't look anything like Lex Luthor or Loki or Bruce Wayne. He has a completely different face. And I think it doesn't do justice to Jason Isaacs, who portrayed him in the movies, and the character itself. Another one is Bellatrix from Attack on the Burrow. A lot of people were very disappointed by this face. I was very disappointed too. So her face comes from Mantis from Marvel, originally the set Ravager Attack, and also used later in DC for Poison Ivy in the Batman Mech vs Poison Ivy set. My issue here is that none of these characters look like Bellatrix, and none of them look like Helena Bonham Carter, who plays her. It's just wrong. First off, Mantis's face, being Bellatrix's face, was originally created for Mantis. They made it based on what she looks like in the movies. They do not look anything alike. Another gripe is Ginny Weasley or Susan Bones. So Ginny Weasley from the Diagon Alley set as her young version, and Susan Bones from the Great Hall set both share a face, and their face also comes from the Jurassic World set for two different characters in the Jurassic World theme, Macy Lockwood and Lex Murphy. Now, I don't know anything about these characters, but I can't say that they look anything like Ginny. I feel like LEGO's just been reusing a lot of young faces for a lot of young characters. You see them using this kind of innocent look for a lot of the different younger characters, and it kind of annoys me because younger characters have strong features and elements to their face and personality quirks that are visible on their face just as much as adults do. So I just don't get it. Poor Ginny Weasley, she's just not getting any justice in these LEGO sets, because my next one is again Ginny Weasley, but from Attack on the Burrow, which came out this year. Her face was originally used for Claire Dearing in the 2018 to 2020 Jurassic World theme. The only thing the two characters have in common is that they're redheads, but other than that, they have no similarities except that they're female, they're white, and they've got red hair. Taking baseline and very simple characteristics of these characters doesn't feel fair to the minifigures. Just because somebody has the same hair color doesn't mean you should just use the same face. It just doesn't seem right. Another culprit of this is Lavender Brown. Lavender Brown and Ray both share the same face. This is the Ray from the 2015 to 2020 waves. Though they have white skin and brownish hair, sharing a face does not seem right. Lavender's character is more bubbly, excited, and fun, whereas Ray is more of a serious, I'd say depressed character. So their personalities do not match up that much, and I feel like your personalities have to reflect in your minifigure face, which they definitely don't for Lavender. Another one is Fleur Delacour and Hannah Abbott's face, which they both share, which was taken originally from Ellie Sattler from the Jurassic World theme, specifically from the Jurassic Park Velociraptor Chase and Jurassic Park T-Rex Rampage sets from 2018 to 2019. Now, I might be on my own in saying this, but I don't think that Ellie Sattler looks similar to Fleur Delacour or Hannah Abbott. They're completely different ages for starters. Hannah Abbott is younger than Fleur Delacour, and Fleur Delacour older than Hannah Abbott. And then comparing that to Ellie Sattler, the only thing they have in common is that they're white and they have blonde hair. That's it. They don't have any facial features that are similar in any way. It just doesn't make sense. I'm probably repeating myself here, but that's how much this is a problem. It just keeps happening over and over again. Now, these last few, I'm just chucking in here because I noticed them, but they're not as big of an issue because their characters have only been used a few times and their faces have only been used a few times. So we've got Victor Crumb from the Clock Tower and the Hungarian Horntail set, who shares a face with Sam Flynn from the Tron Legacy Light Cycle set from 2018. I don't think these two characters look alike, but I can probably give this a slide, to be honest, because Victor Crumb is not as much as a prominent minifigure in the Harry Potter theme, and his face was only used once outside of the Harry Potter theme as Sam Flynn, so that's not too much of a problem for me. Another one is Seamus Finnegan, who comes in the Great Hall, and I'm not sure if his face is the same for the 2021 wave, but that's a whole different story. He shares a face with Tim Murphy from Jurassic World and the Jurassic Park set Velociraptor Chase from 2018. Again, this is a case of Lego recycling these faces for young kids for no absolute reason except for them being the same age. Not too much of a big issue for me though, because they've only been used once outside of the Harry Potter theme, and I'd say Seamus Finnegan is not that big of a character in the movies nor books. The last one I'm going to talk about is Cedric Diggory, not the CMF version, but the Hungarian Horntail and Clocktail versions. His minifigure face was originally used for Han Solo in 2018 and later for Hawkeye in 2019, the same year as Cedric Diggory's release. It doesn't make sense to me for Lego to be using the same face for characters within the same wave/season of releases, Hawkeye being released in 2019 as well as Cedric Diggory in the Hungarian Horntail and Clocktail sets in 2019, so that's a little bit confusing for me, and especially with Han Solo being such an iconic character, reusing his face when it's such a recognizable thing just seems a bit weird to me. Other than reusing faces from other themes, my biggest gripe with Lego reusing faces is using the same face on characters within the same universe. So this has become a big problem for me personally within Harry Potter. I'm going to throw up pictures of Ginny and Susan Bones side by side if you didn't know which one was which. I reckon some people would get confused between the two because first off, they're both gingers, so Ginny's a ginger and Susan's a ginger. Neither of them have ginger eyebrows, but that's not what we're talking about here, but they share the same face. Another case of Lego using young faces for young characters, and then there's also the added thing of both of them being redheads. It's a little bit confusing, and then also the fact that they're in the same universe, so they're coexisting with the same face, and Ginny and Susan Bones do not look the same. Another culprit of this is Ginny again, but her older variant in Attack on the Burrow, and Fleur from the Clock Tower and the Hungarian Horntail set, as well as Hannah Abbott from the Student Pack. All of them share the same face, Ginny's being obviously in ginger, her eyebrows, and Fleur's and Hannah's being blonde, but still the argument stands that they have the same face, and it's a bit confusing if you were not a big Harry Potter fan, or even if you just came into Harry Potter knowing a bit about it. You might be a bit confused to see Fleur and Hannah having the same face, especially them both being blonde, and then also Ginny having the same face as that. Like, it feels a bit lazy to me. Not only have they got Ginny's face reused from Claire from Jurassic World, but then again using that face for Fleur and Hannah, and Fleur and Hannah's face being used for Ellie Sattler from Jurassic World. It's like a circle. It just keeps happening. It's very, very confusing. My last one I'm going to complain about is Helga Hufflepuff, who comes in the Hogwarts Microscale set, and Mrs. Weasley from the Diagon Alley and Attack on the Burrow set. Both of them share the same face, and they're both relatively older women, which might make this a bit confusing for certain people, aside from the fact that they share the same face. Though they don't coexist in the same time frame, they still coexist within the same universe, so it might be a bit confusing for people, and it doesn't make sense because I don't think they have many similarities. This is my own personal complaint, but I just think that Mrs. Weasley's face looks too old for her. She looks way younger in my opinion, but that's a whole different issue. Moving on to my next complaint. This one's about the skin tone of Cho Chang. Now, if you watch my channel a lot, you'll know about my problem with Cho Chang's skin tone. Cho Chang is an Asian, which is pretty obvious to anyone who has eyes. Lego decided to go with a dark olive to, I assume, distinguish her as a person of color. However, the problem with this is she has light skin, perhaps even a lighter skin tone than Caucasian white people. This is a problem because not only does Cho have whiter skin than some actual white people, but it feels like Lego's attempt to highlight her as an Asian person, which comes out as more offensive rather than a tribute to her. I might not take a big issue with this if it had only happened once and Lego only used her in like one set, but Lego has used her in multiple sets. First off, as a CMF character in the first series, the minifigure pack, the advent calendar in 2020, and then the new 2021 Ravenclaw/Charms classroom set. Cho only appears in 2 movies as a kind of main character and then once in like the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So it's strange that LEGO continues to use her character, continues to bring her up in this theme with the incorrect skin tone. This inconsistency with her appearance in the films and her LEGO skin tone is a big issue, but it becomes an even bigger issue when you compare her to other Asians within the licensed themes of LEGO. One in particular I want to bring up is Mantis from Marvel. I've already discussed her before, but here instead of talking about her Bellatrix face, I'm going to talk about her skin tone. Her skin tone is the same as any white character, despite her being Asian. I think this is pretty unarguable. In LEGO form, she has a light skin tone. Pom, who plays her in the movies, is of Korean descent, and Katie Luang, who plays Cho Chang in the movie, is of Hong Kong descent. People of Korean and Hong Kong descent tend to be lighter in their skin tones, which means that based on what LEGO has done with Mantis, theoretically, they should have made Cho Chang's skin the same color or a similar color. So it just doesn't make sense why they've gone with this darker color. Again, I might not have had a bigger issue with this if they'd made all Asians within the LEGO themes the same tone for their skin color. So for example, Mantis and Cho Chang both have the same skin color relatively in the movies, and if they'd had the same skin color in LEGO, for example, Cho Chang's darker skin color and Mantis also having the skin color, I wouldn't have as much as a problem because at least they're consistent with it. But the inconsistency just makes it all the worse. My next issue is the faces for the twins. Now this may just be a nitpick, but I'm personally I'm a purist, so I love the Harry Potter films and books, and I love to just see the little details. Like, I love when LEGO just puts these little details in that is clearly meant for the big Harry Potter fans, and you love them. But my problem comes when they stuff up big things like this. Like, you can put the small things in and that's all good and fine, but if you stuff up the big things, that kind of just, sucks. Fred and George are identical twins. They have the same face, and they get their individual faces in the CMF Series 2 and in Diagon Alley. Now, I get that they're bigger and more important characters than the Patil twins, but still, the theory applies here. The Patil twins, who are meant to be identical in the book, but, and here's the biggest issue here, they're not identical in the movies. They're played by unrelated actors. I'm gonna butcher these names, please forgive me, but Shefali plays Parvati and Afshan plays Padma. Both of them have different surnames and they're completely unrelated, and they look different. To anyone who has eyes, you can see that they look completely different, but they share the same LEGO face. Now, LEGO seems to be following the films as a reference mostly for visual reference, so I don't get why they gave them the same face. I mean, I understand why they gave them the same face, because theoretically they should have the same face. They should look identical, and it's probably a money-saving venture for them too. The advent calendar is not a big deal to them. It's not like a D2C set like Diagon Alley was, and it's not the CMF sets like they're $5 a pack. Obviously not as big of a deal, but still something I take issue with. Another inconsistency I see is between waves. So the different waves of Harry Potter, the 2018, 2019 and 2020 versions, each different sets came out in the different years. Luna has medium legs in the CMF series, which came out in 2018, the first wave. However, she has long legs in the Room of Requirement set, which came out in the 2020 wave. However, she is the same age in all of these minifigure outfits if they're basing them off those scenes from the movies. So it's all from the Order of the Phoenix, the Room of Requirement and the CMF Series 1. So it doesn't make sense why they didn't use the same height to legs in the Room of Requirement as she was the same age. It's just a small goof, but then it also continues on. For example, Cho also has medium legs in CMF Series 1, but then gets longer legs in the minifigure pack where she has her hair swept back in the princess hair, which is also a problem because she's younger in the minifigure pack. So she is her Goblet of Fire variant in the minifigure pack and her Order of the Phoenix variant in the CMF pack. It doesn't make sense why she should be shorter in the CMF pack if she's younger in the minifigure pack. There's no way that she's shrunk between movies. A final one on this topic is Hermione from the Hogwarts Express, which is based off of The Prisoner of Azkaban, as it includes Lupin and the Dementors. But this set doesn't follow the other Hermione variants from that movie when she was that age. The other Prisoner of Azkaban set, Hagrid's Hut, features Hermione with different sized legs and different face and hair. The Hermione from the Hogwarts Express follows the Hermiones from
from the first 2 movies, which is inconsistent with the Prisoner of Azkaban variants. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the faces of characters not actually matching their movie variants. So for example, Draco Malfoy, to me personally, I don't think he matches his movie variant. His eyebrows are a bit dark for my liking, as I think in the first movie he had lighter eyebrows and it doesn't match with his darker eyebrows. Same with Ginny, her eyebrows are black in her younger version, but in the movie she has ginger eyebrows, so it doesn't make sense why it's so inconsistent. Anyway, that's all from me. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and tell me what you thought of my opinions. If you have differing ones, that's okay. It'll be cool to start a conversation. State your opinions too. Also, I just wanted to quickly explain why I haven't been making videos lately. I'm really sorry about that, but I've just been going through my ATAR experience. Australians will know about this, so I've just been very stressed. Thanks for watching. Bye.